Let me start out by saying, if you were hoping to hear me talk about the different roles Pokemon play, defensive mons, offensive mons, hazard setters, hazard removers, etc., this is not the video for you. You see, this video is inspired by my personal journey in learning how to build competitive teams. You see, I've already seen most of the videos out there, and I often got to the end of them either overwhelmed or not really sure where to go next. So I made my own system, and that's what I'm going to teach you in this video, is this system that I created specifically designed for beginners. Now, this system is probably a lot different than what you're expecting, but I promise you, if you stick with me to the end of this video, you will know what to do to start building your own unique squads. Alright guys, let's get into it. The first step to this team building guide may surprise you, but stick with me here. The first thing that you want to do as a beginner in team building is to actually steal a high ladder team. I like to watch battles on the high ladder and look for teams that look fun to me. You can also look up previous official ladder tournament (OLT) players and then search for them in the replay search. OLT games are forced to be public, and so you can often find a lot of replays for these players. Make sure that whatever team you pick is proven to be a reliable team in the upper ladder. Now, I'm a huge fan of Stall personally, and recently noticed an official ladder tournament player spamming this one team that looks super cool to me. Shoutouts to you, anime fan. I don't know if you're the one that created it, but you played a ton of games with it, and I appreciate that. Once I noticed the team, I came over here to the replay search and searched their name, LT91BB anime fan, and went ahead and found 5 or so replays with the team I was interested in. One note, if they don't have that many replays, you can always stalk them on the watch live battles for a little while, because often they'll spam one team for a couple games in a row. And so you can come in here and stalk them for a bit until you get enough replays yourself, uploading them at the end of the battle. Once you have these replays, do what I'm about to show you to spend as little time as possible figuring out all the different spreads. I came up with a system to make this part as quick as I could. Go ahead and pull up each of your replays and skip to some super high turn. I like to use 200 because the vast majority of battles are shorter than that. And what you're looking to do at this phase is just get the items and the moves off of each Pokemon. So what you do is you look through here and say, all right, I can see Cresselia had leftovers, Toxic Protect and Ice Beam, and Moonlight. And so you would do that for each Pokemon until you've got the items and the moves on all 6 of your Pokemon, but none of the EVs. Don't worry about that part yet. All right, so now that you've got your blank sets in your team builder, go ahead and import all the blank sets into the Pokemon calculator. Once you've done this, just go one Pokemon at a time, skipping to the points in each battle where that Pokemon did something. So if we were to start with Clefable, you would just skip to wherever Clefable came in and did something first, and start seeing how much damage it dealt and how much it took. Now, you're going to have to make some assumptions, but generally using the pre-populated stuff in here should get you pretty close. Now, once you get to the point where you've used up all your EVs and it seems to fit pretty much all of them. Sometimes they'll have tweaked stuff, so it may not perfectly line up, but you should be able to get pretty close. Go ahead and save whatever this is. Come back here. Come back here and update it here. Repeat this process for each Pokemon until you've successfully stolen the team. Now that you have put together the team, go back and watch each replay and study them. You're looking for 2 key things here. 1, you want to identify what the general game plan this person was using was, and 2, you want to identify some of the basic patterns. So to give you guys an example of what a pattern you're looking for is, I've got this one pulled up here. So on this team, it is very common, I noticed, for Anime Fan to use Knockoff with Toxapex to remove leftovers from Ferrothorn, and then to have Clefable be the Ferrothorn answer. The reason for this is without leftovers, Ferrothorn's only way of recovery is Leech Seed. But Clefable has Magic Guard, so it can't get HP back through Leech Seed. However, many of Ferrothorn run a physical move, and so what would happen is this Clefable would come in and just start chipping it down, and they would knock off, picking up the Sticky Barb. Now this happened in multiple games, so I realized that a common answer for Ferrothorn was to use this Clefable Sticky Barb tech after doing the knockoff with a Toxapex. Before I watch each battle, I like to run the replay through ninjacalytics.com to get a feel for the basic stats, how much we dealt from different sources, how much we healed from different sources, and you can kind of look at it before you watch the battle to get a feel for what you're looking for. So in this game, I can see Hazard was the #1 damage source. Looks like it dealt around 140% HP, but then Clefable, Zapdos, and Quagsire dealt a lot of the remaining damage. And so now, as I'm watching this battle, I have a real feel for what it is I'm looking for. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've built the base team and I understand how it operates. Now I get to make changes, right? Hold your horses there. I've learned if you truly want to learn something, then you can do it the painful and slow way, or you can put in some effort up front to ensure the entire thing goes way smoother and faster. But again, I promise you that by the end of this video, you will be building your own team, so stick with me. Step 3 is not to change the team, but to go pilot the team yourself for 10 or so games. Really focus on executing the game plan and patterns you identified in your study of the games. This step will be crucial for the remaining steps as well, for reasons other than just knowing the game plan and patterns, but I'll get to that in a bit. The point is, you can't skip this step if you're a beginner at team building, and I assume you are because you clicked this video and have made it this far. Now, if you find that in piloting this team in your 10 or so games that you're losing a lot of them, you need to either restudy to figure out what you're missing or consider choosing a different team that's less difficult to pilot. It's possible that this team just doesn't jive with you and it's going to be way too hard for you to understand how the team works in the first place. But assuming that you were able to get through the games and you had a decent win rate, you were able to maintain points, now you're ready for step 4. The fourth step of this process is to identify the Pokemon that you use the least often on the team. What Mons had the most niche roles? If you're a beginner, you're only looking for 1 or maybe 2 Pokemon. And if you're having trouble identifying those, consider the ones that you were the quickest to swap to. What's your gut reaction to, oh, I always go to this Mon whenever this happens? Use that to help eliminate which ones were maybe the least likely. So for me, when I was piloting this team with Anime Fan, I was the least likely to go to this Cresselia and Clefable. I relied a lot more heavily on Quagsire, Skarmory, Zapdos, and Toxapex. Now, the trick is to identify what roles did those 1 or 2 Pokemon serve when you swapped to them. Now remember, you went to them the least often, so at least as you piloted them, their roles should be fairly narrow. Don't worry about all of the roles they could serve. Focus on the roles they actually served in your games. Do you see where I might be going with this? Now for me, in this team, I noticed that I use Cresselia and Clefable mostly as extra padding for my team based on what type of attack my opponent's team leaned towards. If they were more physically offensive, I used these 2 as a little extra buffer for my Skarmory and Quagsire. And if they were more specially defensive, I used these 2 as extra buffer for Toxapex and Zapdos when they got low. I also noticed that Cresselia was my main future sight answer, and Clefable had the niche role of the Sticky Barb tech, which allowed me to take out support mods, in particular Ferrothorn. Alright, the long-awaited step is finally here. Step 5, delete the 2 Pokemon that you use the least often, and replace them with something that serves the same roles. The beauty of this process is it preserves what I call the backbone of the team. So for me, when I used this team, I relied heavily on these 4 Pokemon, and so by preserving that, I'm able to not change how the team functions, but allow myself to practice building Pokemon for specific roles. This also then allows you to start with a much narrower scope. When you only have to satisfy a couple of roles, it's a lot easier to find a Pokemon to do that, as compared to trying to build a core that can handle most of OU. So in this particular case, what I did was came up with a Perish Trap Altaria with Slowking. So Slowking provided extra Spadef bulk while handling Future Sight quite well, and Altaria provided extra defense bulk and has a great support Mon trap technique in Fire Spin Perish Song. So these 2 fulfilled a very similar role, but in their own way. And I happen to love Altaria, so this was super cool for me. Now, that is not the end of the process. I promised I'd teach you to build teams, not how to build specific Pokemon for specific purposes, and I will deliver on my original promise. So step 6 is to keep practicing until you can build cores. Play some games with your new squad. Try making several variations on the final slot. Lots of Pokemon can fit the specific roles, and find the ones that you enjoy the most and work the best. Then, as you practice more, repeat the same process, but now target a new Mon to replace. This will get harder as you replace 2 and finally 3 of the original members. This is because as you work backwards, you are now getting closer and closer to changing the actual backbone of the team. Take it 1 Mon at a time, being willing to try a few variations for each Mon as you keep iterating. Once you have replaced 3 Pokemon and found that the team has maintained its win rate and playability, congratulations, you've just hit a huge milestone. You just built your first core. By starting with the least used Pokemon first, you've made it as easy as possible to get into team building. The main backbone still exists, but at this point, the team should feel highly unique and you should be proud of yourself. Once you have reached this point, you are very close, if not already able, to start creating your own backbones. Practice this process on more teams until you find that putting together a 2 or 3 Pokemon core is getting fairly easy. To finally get to building your own squads of 6 from scratch, practice replacing more and more Pokemon at once. When you can replace 3 Pokemon after identifying their roles in one swoop and maintain a decent win rate, you are ready. Your ability to pair things to handle a wide range of scenarios is now up to snuff. Take your awesome teams and heat up the ladder with your spice. Now this process takes time, and at first it may not be as fun as throwing together your favorite 6 Pokemon and hitting the ladder, but I think your saved elo will thank me. Now having a good team is only half of the battle. You also need to understand how to pilot the various types of teams. You may think you know how to pilot yours, but do you know what your opponent is trying to do? I am going to be releasing a set of guides on how to pilot stall, balance, and hyper offense on my channel over the coming weeks. Stall is coming up first since it's my favorite, so either click here if the video is already out, or if it hasn't been released yet, be on the lookout for my next video coming this Friday. Alright, that's it for this video. My name is Jack, stage name Ninjak, and I will see y'all heating it up on the ladder.